Hey everybody, Aaron J. Anderson here. In this video, we're going to do an ISO test between the Sony a7 III and the Fuji X T3. So we lowered the light just to see if we can get the shadows off. Now with the flash off is what you see is what you get. When you turn the flash on, in this test we're going to do a low light test. Now we know that the Sony a7 III will beat the Fuji X T3, but let's see how much how much it's going to beat it. So you can see the what I'm shooting at there, and from my Pocket Osmo as I'm filming this now, it's about as dark as you're seeing it in this video. So it is a low light situation here, and we're just going to go through a couple different settings. And what we are going to be taking a photo of is a color chart and that little scene down there, and I'm focusing right on that scene, as you guys can see here. Let's see if we can do this. If you can see that, you can see where I'm focusing on right there, and same with this one right down there. So we're going to take some tests and we're going to see how much worse the Fuji X T3 is. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the realm of ISO. That would be not pushing this. So I'm going to change the lights on in the room there to give us a little bit brighter so we can get those ISOs down to normal levels. So give me a second. Okay, so now you can see the lights are turned on. I opened the windows and all that stuff. So now what we're going to see is just kind of bring it down to more modest ISO, and it's still kind of low light. Now the Pocket Osmo kind of is brightening up a little brighter than you guys see it, but anyways, on both cameras we're at f2.8 wide open. We are at 125th of a second. I like to stay there because, if you want to kind of freeze action, not freeze action, but you know what I mean, you minimize motion blur to an extent. And now we are at 6400 ISO on both cameras. So we're going to take a photo. And now we're just going to step down into different ISOs, and we will go to the computer and check them out. Hey everybody, so in this video we're going to go through basically comparing the ISO performance in a way between these two. I already did a dynamic range test between these two, and while doing these tests, I must tell you, I know the Sony a7 III full frame sensor is one of the best sensors on the market even today of 2019. So some of you say it's not fair comparing this. I'm not comparing these cameras to see which one's the best. I'm comparing it for me to see if the X T3 can perform up to my standards, I guess. Not quite to the standards of this, but would I be happy with it, basically? That's all this test is. Ever since I started my YouTube channel, I test things out for myself. So that's why it might be apples to oranges and not apples to apples, because I never really put two lenses together or two whatever together to see which one's better. It's just which one is best for me, and am I willing to compromise a little bit less quality on the X T3 being a smaller sensor over the a7 III. So that's all these tests are. Sometimes it's helpful for some people, and others people just don't care. They want to see a direct comparison between like apples to apples. That's not what my channel usually is. So the dynamic range test that I did, you could check that video out. They were super close, close enough for me that I would use either camera under the situations that I shoot, which I have video lighting and I have photography lighting. If I need light, I will use it. And I do professional type situations, so yeah, it's not that big of a deal to me. Although of course I would love more dynamic range in all my cameras, but comparing these two, watch the video, I find that it's good enough for me. I actually found that I found more purple banding in the shadows with the Sony a7 III opposed to the X T3, where it looks like they mute that purplish color out. So this actually looked better as far as the dark shadow noise is concerned. So in this test, just an ISO test, nothing too scientific here. I just set up the tripod and we went for it as you've seen in the video. So let's go through these and let's see the comparison between the two. So in all these tests, the one on the left is always going to be the Fuji and the one on the right will always be the Sony. And I just picked some random ISO. First of all, I just want to see the base ISO of each. So the one on the left, the Fuji, is at 160 ISO. And the Sony a7 III on the right is at 100. Again, you know, we assume that the Sony will beat the Fuji, but is the Fuji good enough for the work that I do? And I know some people might have said that the Fuji has different ISO weirdness, like a lot of the cameras in the past that I've had. If you did an ISO lens cap test from 100 to really high, you would notice it would progressively get worse, then all of a sudden magically it got better, or like maybe 1600 just looked like 400, and then it would get worse again. So the Fuji might have something like that. I'm not sure, but I'm just picking random ISOs here to see. So let's start with the base ISO, and we've got, remember, we're not, this on a tripod, so sharpness should be as good as it was. These are all raw, so there shouldn't be any processing. And I brought them into Adobe After Effects with a camera, Adobe RAW, which of course people will say that's not the best for the Fuji. You need to go to Capture One. I'm aware of all that. I've tried Capture One, and I can't find too much of a difference. So I think this would be adequate for at least testing to see. So here's the Fuji. If we just look at the colors here, there's like next to no noise in here that I see at all. Over here, we're going to find a lot of noise when we get up to the higher ones. I don't really see anything. And here over the Sony, pretty much the same thing, just really no noise to be seen or heard of. So basically, to me, here's my little pocket Osmo protective thing here. And on all these, I focused right on this little Paris scene right here. So yeah, that's ISO 160 and 100, so there's no big deal. Let's go over to ISO 800. And again, the Fuji's over here. Let's just look at this full screen palette. What are we at? This is at 200%. And I would say there is some noise of some sort going on here, but it's at 200%, it's still like 100% like usable, like just not even an issue. Let's work our way over here to the Sony. The Sony, again, has, you know, you can see noise because we're in so close. I mean, if you go ridiculous like 400%, you know, you can see digital stuff going on there, but it's nothing to be worry about on either camera. I mean, it just looks amazing. This is at 100%. If we come over here, they both look good at 800 ISO. Remember, this is 800, so I jumped a lot just because you're going to get similar results in such a slow increment of noise. Let's just jump up to the higher ones where if you're in low light situations, that's where you're going to be. So at 800, I mean, seriously, it's just like we would have to say that the Fuji does have more noise, but it's, you know, if we just have to be honest, but I mean, it's just nothing to even. I mean, this is ridiculously, see, we're at 200% down here. And they both look pretty darn good. I mean, I wouldn't, it's great. Okay, so let's go over to 1600. Again, the Fuji's over here. They're both at 1600 raw. The Sony over here. Let's just zoom into this thing. If we look at this at 100%, again, this is the Fuji X T3. Looks absolutely wonderful. You guys won't notice this much on YouTube, but it just looks really good. If we zoom into a ridiculous 400%, of course, we can see digital noise, and this is stupid even to come in this far. It's like nobody's going to do this to your images. And if we come over to the Sony, we see noise as well. If we come out to, you know, 100% is kind of a good way to look, just because you might be, if you were to blow this image up, I mean, this would be, you see the full image here. If we were to, you know, print this out at 100%, you can see how large, I mean, this is way larger than my monitor. It's just really huge, and this is impressive at 1600 on the Fuji. I would absolutely shoot all day long at 1600 if I had to. Same with the Sony, of course. Now the Sony, you're starting to see the pattern here. I don't know if this shows up on YouTube, but there's a crisscross pattern that you will see. Now apparently that is the sensor, the structure of the sensor. I don't know if you guys see that there, but it's on there, and on the Fuji it's not on there. If we look into the shadows here, we can definitely see noise compared to the lower ISO, but it looks like it's just such a fine grain. And again, this is at 200 ridiculous dumb percent. If we come over here, the Sony, you have grain over here too. Yeah, it looks very good. I mean, there's either or, wouldn't bother me. Let's go to 3200. So now let's come over here to this little color chart here. Again, we are seeing a little bit of noise, but it's like this such a fine grained noise. If we do a stupid 400%, and I say it's stupid because nobody's going to ever do this. Let's go back to 200. You can see the noise. Let's check out the noise in here as we go over. There's definitely noise here. Here's the Sony. It's just definitely noise here. There's definitely noise here. I can see a little more of the pattern of the sensor. You can see like these crisscrossing lines here. And if we go in, you know, I mean, really, the noise, Sony people will hate me for saying that. I just got to be honest. I love both cameras, so I'm not trying to say one over the other, but they look pretty darn good. I mean, if we just look at this black and gray and we come over here, you know, yeah, there's more noise. Like I said, there's more noise here, but it's completely 100% out of this world usable. I mean, there's just no other word for it. Either camera I would use. Let's go to 64. Let's get that loading here. You can see the blue bar loading these huge files here. And let's come into this color checker. Again, we've got noise, of course, at 6400, but this noise is not that macro blocky junk that we used to get in older cameras. It's such a fine grain that it actually, you know, noise actually makes things look more sharp in detail. And that's what we're kind of getting here. I mean, that's like, that looks so sharp. The color is still brilliant. If we come over here, we're noticing a little bit of a kind of a weird color shift, I would say. That could be I was using, you know, auto white balance, I think, so that could mean it. But we're not looking at color here, unless the noise gets, you know, weird noise color. But, you know, there's these patterns. Again, you can see these lines coming through that gray. That I think is the sensor pattern. And we see noise here, and we see noise here. There's more here. It's a fine grain looking type noise. If we go in 200% and we come over here, you know, it's a little less over here as usual, but it's just nothing to write home about. If we go let's not go 400, let's go 200% in this quadrant here. That's the Sony. If we come way over here, and there's the Fuji, of course, there's more, but if you look at a respectable regular, it's so usable, guys. It really is. Okay, so let's take this. Let's just get closer to, I'm going to mask this back here, and then what we'll do is we'll just bring this over so we can see these things really side by side. Let's put the Sony on top so we see that. Oops, let me unlock this. So the Sony's on top. So if we come in here, you can see the noise difference. This is the Sony, this is the Fuji. This one looks a little brighter, and that could be all sorts of different things. I won't worry about that. But if we just look at the noise, it's definitely cleaner over here. There's noise over here, but it's not a crappy macro blocking. We're not getting any color shifts or weird anything. It just looks completely, look at that. At 100, it is 100%. It looks great. I don't know what to tell you. It looks good to me. Here, it looks pretty noisy here, so let's take this mask and bring it back to, oh, well, we got a different angle, so we're not going to be able to see that. That's that shoe there. We can look at these little things here. Whoops, forgot I changed it up here. Let's move these over. So we'll just look at different parts. So these things out here, I mean, is, you know, would you use the Fuji, or are you looking at this and saying, no, the Sony is definitely 100% way better than I would never use the Fuji? Not exactly. I would definitely use the Fuji, and this is raw, no image, noise reduction. Let's go now. This one was a little weird because for whatever reason, I shot the Fuji's at 12,800 and the Sony is at 10,000. So it's not fair because there's a higher ISO. I don't know what I did. I skipped something, but we're just going to look at these anyways. So if you look at this, the color for me is not shifted very much on the Fuji here. And over here, it's, you know, the Sony shifted just a little. But again, either one, it's no big deal to me. If we look at this, let's go 100%. This is the Sony. We can definitely see grain, but again, it's like a fine grain. I would even use the Sony at this ISO if I had to. The detail's still there. If we go over to the Fuji, there's a lot more noise, and it almost looks like I might have shook the camera because it looks a little, just looks like, I don't know, it doesn't look that sharp. I don't think that's due to the noise, but it could be, who knows. But there's definitely, remember, this is ISO 12,800, whereas the Sony is at 10,000, so this is actually a higher ISO. It's not a fair comparison, but I thought I would just check this out anyways. Let's do that. Let's take this and take that back. Let's put the Sony on top. And now we can bring this over closer so we can just get a closer look at this. And, you know, this is pretty interesting because we're definitely losing detail here at 12,000, 12,800 on the Fuji, and this is 10,000. So naturally, this is not fair, but even at 12,800, the Fuji is usable if you had to get the shot. If you expose properly like this, and you're looking at this at 100%, if you used a little noise reduction on here and some sharpening, it would just be absolutely fine. So for me, they look really, really good. So there you have it. I mean, these are just some really quick tests to see, and so far the Fuji is absolutely impressing me because, you know, I shot on Micro Four Thirds for a long time, and going to Micro Four Thirds directly into the Sony a7 III with its amazing sensor, it was like a wow factor, right? But it's not as much of a wow factor when it comes to comparing these two side by side. So far, the Sony will beat the Fuji, but for me and my work, it's not like, whoa, it's like just way over the top. Now, if you're doing events or you do documentaries where you just never use lighting, well, you might as well get a Sony a7 III. But when it comes down to it, quality isn't always the main thing. Of course, it's really high up there. But another thing for me is the usability of a camera is very important, and that's why I used Panasonic Micro Four Thirds and took a hit on dynamic range and IQ for so many years, because I love the use of Panasonic cameras, and the Fuji is bringing that back to me. I feel like this is a very fun camera to use. I've only had it for a week, and seeing that the difference in dynamic range, IQ, and we'll do some sharpening tests in a few days here, but I'm finding it very capable, so capable that I would use either one of these so far on any of my professional shoots. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, leave some comments, give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for every Tuesday. We do me and David Osler do a live streaming show. We talk about gear, and we show you guys a photo and take you guys through how we got the photo. And that is on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. What is that? Eastern Standard Time. So anyways, talk to you guys later. Bye.